Football is the king of sports, the greatest game of all time. There's no doubt about it. And you probably think, just like we do since you clicked on this video, there's a lot of hate about the modern game. A lot of it makes us so angry at times. So sit back and let's discuss just some of the many things that we hate, that everyone hates about modern football. First of all, we can't start with anything other than the new Champions League format. What do you think of it? Is it going to completely change the background of the most prestigious club tournament? Or as the old saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Let's have a good discussion on this hot topic. Here's our take. The new Champions League format has both good and bad points, but right now the bad ones seem to be outweighing the good ones. For example, we've always wanted smaller teams to be able to compete with the top giants. But with the creation of this mega tournament, that's becoming increasingly impossible. Or if you have no interest in the likes of Young Boys or Löwen Bratislava, take Aston Villa or Feyenoord for example. When will these historic teams with the Champions League experience ever be able to compete with the likes of Barcelona, Bayern Munich, or Real Madrid? Yes, in case you didn't know, Aston Villa won the Champions League in 1982, then known as the European Cup, after beating Bayern Munich in the final. 42 years later, the two teams will meet again. But what are the chances of the Villains putting off another such prestigious victory, or even getting out of this so-called group stage? Almost impossible, given that only half of these teams will qualify for the knockout stages. Yes, the Champions League new format is ridiculous overall, as it increasingly resembles the American models of competition such as the NBA, NFL, or NHL. But at least it's not as disgusting as Florentino Perez's proposal to create a Super League, which would have completely divided rich from poor. Fingers crossed that this idea never comes to fruition, because it would mean the official end of our beloved game. A close second on our list, undoubtedly, is the VAR. The Video Assistant Referee system was awaited with much excitement ahead of its introduction in 2018. But here we are a mere 6 years later, with more fans surely wanting it removed than to keep it. So let's talk facts. How does VAR actually help football? It can intervene when offside is suspected. That's fine. It can intervene when a red card is suspected. It can also intervene when a goal or a penalty is suspected, no matter what the offense. Now, on paper, that sounds perfect because the fans would be reassured that everything is within the rules and no big mistakes would ever be made again. At least that was the expectation. In reality, however, VAR and, more importantly, the officials who run it, have turned out to be arguably the biggest mistake in football history. Not only can we no longer be 100% certain that every single decision on the pitch is made in accordance with the rules, but fans and players alike have to put up with other problems and irritations that spoil the game. For example, offside, which is undoubtedly the biggest. Why? When the striker is clearly miles offside, does the sideline referee have to wait 10 or 20 seconds, get a signal in his headset that it's offside, and only then raise his flag? Or another big example, your team has scored, but you have to wait for the game to restart after 2 or 3 minutes to make sure the goal hasn't been disallowed. It's just a little thing for some, but for the fans, it definitely takes away the emotion and makes the game worse and worse. Yes, the VAR system is annoying, but there is room for improvement. At least in theory. One thing that can't be fixed, however, is the international break. Every September, October, and November, the start of the season, fans have to forget about football because of these breaks, which in most cases do not bring any joy. The most annoying of all is the international break in March, just when the most interesting part of the season is about to begin, with the final stages of the Champions League coming up. However, nothing compares to the real danger these international breaks bring. Injuries. Actually, forget about the Super League and VAR. International breaks are the most hated thing in football. There is no worse feeling than seeing your club's top player injured during an international break. We saw this happen to Gavi last season. For example, the kid was at the peak of his powers, but he tore his ACL in a European qualifier in November and has yet to return for Barcelona. The same thing happened with Martin Ødegaard and Eder Militao not so long ago. So yes, these pauses can really be the make or break in your club's season. For the next one, well, you may have never experienced it, but it is indeed one of the most annoying things in football, especially for Asian fans. Kickoff times. And again, this is largely due to TV scheduling and global viewing requirements. Take the Premier League, for example. On Saturdays, you'll often see just one early kickoff at 12:30 p.m. UK time, followed by a cluster of 5 or 6 games at 3 p.m. This isn't random. Broadcasters pay huge sums for TV rights, and by swapping kickoff times, they can broadcast more games individually, increasing ad revenue and viewer engagement. However, the tradition of all matches starting simultaneously at 3 p.m. has been sacrificed for this commercial approach. But as we said, the kickoff problem is not just one for Premier League fans. Just think of Asian fans from India, Bangladesh, or Japan, for example. If you want to watch Champions League matches and you live in one of these countries, rest assured that people are staying up until 3 or 4 in the morning to watch their favorite teams play, disrupting sleep schedules and daily routines. Yes, football is a special game, but how special does it have to be to ruin your Wednesdays and Thursdays every twice a month? On the other hand, what about financial fair play? What do you think, Barca fans? And you, Chelsea supporters? We mentioned these two teams for a reason, as they are the two perfect examples of big clubs at the two extremes when it comes to spending on wages and transfer fees. Yes, in Barcelona's case, there's nothing particularly annoying, because they rely on minimal investment at the moment and would be nowhere near where they are if it weren't for the talent coming out of their La Masia academy. At the other end of the spectrum, we have Chelsea, a team that continues to spend millions season after season. But opposing fans keep wondering, what's going on? When is financial fair play going to kick in? Yes, the fact is that nobody knows the rules of financial fair play. And it's quite possible that Barcelona could go on for years struggling to find ways to keep their heads above water, while the big Premier League teams continue to spend 200 to 300 million every summer without any intervention from the official regulator. It just is what it is. Aside from financial fair play and all the confusion surrounding it, another issue in modern football is the fixture congestion. Yes, to be honest, at first glance, it may not seem like much of a problem for fans, but a busy schedule for your favorite club in a short period of time can be much worse than you think. For example, it is common knowledge that the more games you play, the greater the risk of injury. And unless you're a Man City fan who currently have the biggest squad in world football right now, you're well aware of the problem. And paradoxically, it's their players who complain the most about the tough schedule. Bernardo Silva and Kevin De Bruyne did it literally a few weeks ago, with the Portuguese stating that the situation with the game's schedule is really absurd, just crazy, while his colleague added that the teams raise concerns, but no solutions have been found, and that the real problem will emerge after the club's World Cup. And that brings us to our next topic, the Club World Cup. Our questions here are more or less the same as with the new Champions League format. Why did this competition have to be changed? They changed the Euros, then the World Cup, then added the most useless competition in the world, the Conference League, and now they have changed the Club World Cup as well. Yes, it is true that the Club World Cup has never been one of the most attractive tournaments in the world, but there have been surprises, and not infrequently, small teams from South America have caused a stir. Take 2012 for example, when Corinthians beat Chelsea, or 2005 and 2006 when two other Brazilian sides, Sao Paulo and Internacional, beat Liverpool and Barcelona respectively. On the other hand, the new format of the Club World Cup will be much more interesting. But in the end, it will be like another Champions League, where we will mostly see European teams in the knockout stages. Besides, it would not be worth the effort for the players. And last but not least, an issue that has been on the agenda for more than 15 years, club ownership and the huge influence of money on the game. In recent years, football has seen the emergence of billionaires and corporations taking over clubs, transforming them from community-based teams into global business ventures. This shift can be seen in the likes of Man City and Paris Saint-Germain, whose owners have poured in huge sums of money to build world-class teams almost overnight. And it is precisely this Qatari or Saudi money that is causing the game to fall apart. This influx of cash has led to a distortion of competition, with rich clubs easily able to bid for the best talent, and players' wages and transfer fees reaching astronomical levels. Yes, with this last example, we have managed to delve deep into one of football's most serious problems, one that unfortunately cannot be solved. As fans, we can only hope that truly historic clubs such as Real Madrid, Barcelona, or Bayern Munich which are famous for being owned by the fans and not some billionaire businessmen, will forever rely on their club identity. So, those were 8 of the biggest problems in modern football. Now it's your turn to share your thoughts in the comments down below. What is the biggest problem in your opinion? Or do you have something else to add that wasn't covered? Also, don't forget to subscribe.